Amen. So we've seen between 1833 and 1838 there's a change in emphasis, there's a change in person. We're going from Miller to Litch. And Litch is studying the book of Revelation, chapter 9. And he's going to be looking at the role of Islam. The reason, I'm not sure, I should say I know why he's looking at this. But in his studies he finds obviously two time prophecies in the chapter. I don't know if we're all aware of it. Maybe we should turn to Revelation 9. Before we look at any verses in chapter 9, Litch is going to be studying these time prophecies, as we've said, and he's going to go back to some Old Testament passages. So what two Bible passages is he going to go back to? Sister Catherine, you give us one. To study these time prophecies that he's found in Revelation 9. That deal with day for a year. Sorry?
Ezekiel 4:6 and Numbers 14:34.
1434, good. Everybody agree with that? We concur? Numbers 1434 and Ezekiel 4:6. We've discussed about Ezekiel 4:6, the number 46, connected to which Bible verse? John 2:20. I'm guessing that many of you, if not all of you, have looked at John 2:20 before, because you can pick up the number 220. And what does that mean to you, Sister Wendy? If anything.
Well, I know it's significant, but I can't remember exactly, but I think it has something to do with the building of the temple.
Okay. Sister Daniela?
It's
New to you?
No.
Sister Ruth, new to you? Or?
You know, if you go back to 20 years from November 9, 2019, there was some pointer, some dates that is significant in the I don't know.
Okay. Sister Rachel, 220?
I don't see it is significant, but I don't think I've ever heard or remember why.
Okay, so if it's significant, you'd have heard why, but probably just can't remember. That's fine.
Is it also the time period between when the King James Version was written and when William Miller used it?
Okay, so there's a connection there. Brother David?
220 is symbolic of restoration, a gathering, future, putting back in place what was there at the beginning, That's what comes to mind, but I'm a bit fuzzy otherwise on which time purposes they're related to, but that's what I think. It's
Brother Douglas?
I think it has something to do with Noah. And I'm thinking, from when the message was given to when the flood came. I might be wrong.
Brother James? Sir?
I don't remember.
No?
I'm looking for it right now.
Okay, so 220, as Brother David just told us, is a symbol of restoration. You can see it in the verse itself, in fact, if we were to read John 2:20. Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it in 3 days? Where do you see restoration? Sorry? He rear it up in 3 days. If we go back to verse 19, Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up, or in 3 days I will restore it. So you see restoration there in verses 19 and 20. It's John 2:20, symbol of restoration. Anybody want to make a comment?
I was just going to say I found what I was thinking of, but I couldn't remember.
Okay.
The 220 is period before 457, from 677 to 457.
Okay. So you took us to Genesis, Brother Douglas.
Yes.
Do you know the chapters?
No. I think it's no, Moses is probably 28.
I can't hear.
Noah.
Noah. My memory is failing me, but from my recollection, it has something to do with from the time the message came to when the flood came.
Okay, so let's just go, let's perhaps go there. Which chapter are we going to go to? At least beginning from chapter 6, 7, 8, I guess. So we'll go to chapter 8. Verse 1. Okay, so we'll go to Genesis chapter 8, verse 1. God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. Sister Ruth, what does assuaged mean? They calmed down? Sister Catherine, assuaged? Sorry?
They went away.
Assuaged means to go away? Lowered? I didn't quite hear. Lowered, okay. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. Verse 3, and the waters continued from off the earth. and the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. The 150 days in verse 3 is mentioned in chapter 7, verse 24, the last verse. 7:24 says, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Verse 3 says, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. Verse 4, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. The waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. So the ark begins to rest in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. So when it says the waters assuaged, verse 1, and the waters were abated, verse 3, what does assuaged and abated mean? Sister Wendy?
Can I look it up?
Just tell us what you think it means.
I just think it means that they started to recede.
They started to recede. Someone said something here.
That was that same word Job uses, saying, I would assuage your grief, I would calm, or settle, or comfort your grief.
Okay.
I think it probably means calm, just from that and not looking at it.
So the word means to calm down, because by the time you get to verse 5, it says the waters decreased continually till the 10th month. We're in the 7th month at the moment, that's 3 months. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. So assuage means to calm down, and abate means sorry? To start coming down, to subside. Sister Wendy, do you want to look the words up? So we're saying, from the context, assuage means to calm down, and abate means to come down. To calm down and to come down.
Sorry, is it C-A-L-M or C-O-M-E? Down, come down, I mean, decrease.
Assuage means to calm,
C-A-L-M, okay.
to become gentle,
Okay.
and abate means to
Come down.
come down. Yeah.
Let's say in construction, abate means to remove.
Abate means to remove. An abatement. Yeah. Oh, we'll wait for you. Assuage.
Assuaged is, let me make sure I have the right word. Yeah, assuaged means to subside, abate, decrease. That's, that's BDD. The other one doesn't make a lot of sense. A primitive root to weave, that is lay, a trap, figuratively.
It's never easy, is it?
Okay, make to cease, pacify, set.
Okay.
That was a stage. The other one is to be abated, bereave, decrease. Fail, lack, make, war, not.
Okay, so are we okay with that? Our definitions were correct? To calm down and to reduce. So, verse 4, the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. It's the story of the birds, etc., the ravens go in and out. Drop down to verse 14 of chapter 8. And in the 2nd month, on the 7th and the 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. So the earth was originally dry before the flood, and now it's dried on the 2nd month, the 27th day of the month. The earth is dry. So we go from dry to dry. Are we okay with that? So it was dry, it got flooded, and now it's dried again. So the earth has now been restored back to its original condition. We know everything's been torn up, but in the context of dry. So it goes from dry to wet, back to dry again. So it's been restored. Okay with that, Sister Denise? Dry, wet, dry. And this work of restoration begins once the waters begin to abate, which is chapter 8, verse 4. When does that work begin?
7th month on the 17th day.
And when does it end?
2nd month on the 27th day.
Are we okay with that? Begins to up to the 7th month, 16th day, things are getting worse. Then everything stops. The rain stops. The holes in the ground where the water's gushing up, they all are closed. Everything comes to a calm, and once it comes to a calm, then the waters begin to recede. Begins on the 7th month, 17th day, and it's all done and dusted by the 2nd month, 27th day. Any questions on that?
Trying to find the verse associated with this stop there.
The verse,
That's verse 3, sorry, verse 4.
8:4 and 8,
14.
Daniel 8:14. Yeah, got that, Daniel 8:14? The 2,300 days then shall,
Sanctuary
then shall,
the ark be cleansed. The earth be cleansed.
or the sanctuary is restored.
Restored. Oh, I
Yep.
okay.
Brother Jeffrey? Can you do the maths? Subtract them.
The months and days.
So it goes from dry to dry. So the earth is restored. Are you okay with that? You're okay, it's restored now. When does the work of restoration begin? The verse. 8:4, good. So we're in 8:4 and it ends 8:14. Okay, what's the date?
There,
When it begins?
7th month, 17th day.
Good. 7th month, 17th day. And it ends?
2nd month, 27th day.
2nd month, 27th day. So, what do you know straight away? If it starts on the 7th and it ends in the 2nd, what's happened?
Time has gone forward.
Let's work in our calendar. What month is that?
July,
Don't whisper. No whispering. July. And what month is that?
February,
Okay, what year is that? And what year is that?
that's 2 different years.
2 different years. So we can see that. You've gone from year 1 to year 2. So December is somewhere here. Okay? Okay, so what I want you to tell me is how long that time period is. So that's what I mean. Do the maths.
Like, how much time in between?
Yep. 1818 to 1843 is 25 years. The 7th month, the 17th day of year X to the second month, 27th day, which is year X plus 1, it's the next year. So how many days is that in between?
Oh, you want like the days exact too?
Yeah. I want the time span between them.
Well, I know it's 8 months between, I think, because there's 12 months in our year. And that's 7 plus 5 is 12.
Okay, so how many is this?
That's 5. And 2.
2?
Oh, 1, 2. I'm going to continue. Sorry. So,
No, I'm not continuing, you're continuing.
okay, sorry.
Yeah?
So there's 5 months and the rest of that. And then there's 2 months.
2 months. Okay, so we've got 7 months. Agree with that? Okay?
I don't know the exact days.
You do, it says 17th day, 27th day.
I don't know how to. Okay. Can I do some math on my own paper?
You can come to the board.
I'd rather not.
I knew you wouldn't.
I mean, like, I think I know how to get the days, but that's kind of confusing.
Tell me how you're approaching it in your mind. How are you going through it?
Just to get the months first.
No, we did the months. You walked me through the months. You said 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I got that because that was December. Then January, February. So that's fine. So we started in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. 7 months. I've got 7 months. Just tell me how many days it is now.
What? How many days with, like, the 7? I'm confused. I'm confusing myself. So I need to add those numbers, right? The days?
You tell me.
I don't know. I'm really confused.
Okay, so you need a bit of help?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do an easy one then. 7th month, 7th day. Okay, so then I'm going to go 8th month, 7th day. What's the time span between that?
1 month.
1 month. Anything left over? Why is there nothing left over?
It's not even numbers, but it's the same amount in between.
7 to 7.
Yeah.
Where you start, you end. Okay? It's not the 7th day, it's the 8th day. So it's 1 month and
1 day.
good. 1 month, 1 day. It's not the 8th day, it's the 10th day. Still 1 month.
3 days?
7, 8, 9, 10. 3 days. Good. Okay, it's not the 7th day. It's the 17th day. And it's not the 10th day. It's the 17th day. Now how long? Okay, so let me ask you another question then. 7th month, 1st day. 8th month, 1st day. How long?
1 month.
Any left over? No. Okay, it's not the 1st day, it's the 10th day and the 10th day. How long now?
1 month and 3 days.
Sorry? 1 month?
Yeah.
And how many days? You go from the 10th day to the 10th day. How many extra days?
That's where it confuses me.
Okay, why does it not confuse you when we go from the 1st day to the 1st day? Why didn't that confuse you?
Because it's exactly, well, okay, when it's a month,
Yeah, so we've got the 7th month, first day, 8th month, first day. Exactly 1 month.
Okay, so then it would be 9 days, a month and 9 days.
So if it's the first day to the first day, it's exactly 1 month. You agree with that? If it's the second day to the second day,
That's a month and a day.
why is it a month and a day? You start on the 2nd,
Because 1 to 1 is 1 month and then it's
2 to 2. If I go from, I'm not going to put the months in. If I go from 7-1 to 8-1, you agree it's 1 whole month.
yeah,
If I go to 8-2, it's what?
and a day.
1 month, 1 day. 8-3, 1 month, 2 days. You get that? Okay? So we're going to 7-1 and we're going to go to 8-1. So you've got 1 month. But what about if it was 7-2 and it was 8-2? It'd still be 1. Okay, so let's go this one. 7-10 to 8-10. 1 month. 7-17 to 8-17. 1 month. So we're at 1 month now. So we're on the same page, yeah? So we're at 1 month. It's not the 17th, it's the 18th. So it's what? It's 1 month.
Okay, what was it again?
17th to the 18th.
A month and a day.
Good. 1 month, 1 day.
Okay, I get the concept now.
Okay.
So let me think.
So let's come back to that one now. We've got the month sorted out. Don't get confused with the month, it's the days. We start at the 17th, same one, and we're going to the 27th.
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second.
That's fine.
So it'd be 7 months and 10 days?
10 days. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 10 days. Good. So we're not going to prove the next step, we'll just assume it. We can prove it. So let's take all of this out. Brother Douglas, how many days in a month? 1 month, how many days? 30 days. So we'll just state that as a fact, we're not going to prove it. You okay with that, Brother Jeffrey? Okay, so 7 months, 10 days. What happens at the end of 7 months and 10 days? Brother David, what happens at the end of 7 months and 10 days?
What happens at the end of 7 months and 10 days?
If you're not sure, I'll ask you a different question. Okay, so let me ask you a different question. What happens at the beginning of this 7th month, or the 7th month and 10-day period? This period of time, what happens at the beginning of that period? I'll give you a Bible verse.
Okay.
Genesis 8:4. Don't laugh.
Okay. I actually had a question about that, but okay, let's continue. Since we're on
What happens at the beginning of the period?
The ark rested the ark rested on the mountain. Alright.
Okay, so I'm not going to pick up the ark bit.
Okay.
I want to pick up another word.
Okay.
What word do I want to pick up?
Other than what you've already stated, something is
Oh, sorry, we'll go to 8.3, you're right, 8.3.
Okay.
Let's go to 8.3 to do that.
Okay.
What word do we want?
Abated.
Abated, which means begin to get lower. So it begins to recede, okay, and what happens by the time you get to the end of 7 months and 10 days?
It has stopped receding.
And now what's the condition
It's
of?
dry.
It's totally dry. So it's dry. And how did it all begin?
It began dry.
Dry. So what has happened to the earth?
It has been restored to its original
Good.
state.
So it's restored. So at the end of 7 months and 10 days, the earth is restored. Brother Jeffrey, 1 month is 30 days. Agree with that? Tell us how many days this is. 7 months and 10 days. Obviously, no, 10 days is 10 days. So tell us how long is 7 months in days. Tell me how you're doing the calculation.
Well, I'm doing 7 times 3.
Good, you're doing 7 times 30.
Well, 3 to make it easier.
Okay, so it's 7 times 30, that's the calculation that you're doing. Okay, so now, however you're going to do it in your mind, that's fine how you do it. Just tell me what the answer is. If you're going to do 7 times 3 and put a 0 on, that's fine.
Yeah. 210 days.
210. So it's 210 plus
10, so 220.
220. Okay, so this is what Brother Douglas was referring to. 220, so in the back of his mind he knew it had something to do with Noah. So this is the first time that this is an interesting example. I don't know if you've all heard of the rule, another rule now we're talking about, the rule of first mention. If you've heard about that rule, sometimes when a word is used for the very first time, that gives you an anchor or a definition of what that word means. Are we okay with that? So if you want to know what the word hand or the word parable or the word Sabbath, any word, you go to its first mention and you see how it's used, and that should be your anchor for how that word should be understood throughout the scriptures. Are you okay with that concept? Okay, it's a pretty good rule. You okay with that, Sister Catherine? What's the problem now? Can't hear? What's the problem? I'm saying first mention. What's been mentioned for the first time? You see it mentioned anywhere? So what's the problem? You don't see it clearly. We've had to go through some torturous mathematics to get to this thing. And I'm saying this is no, I didn't say it. Brother Douglas said this is the first mention of 220. And we're going to say back to him, he never even mentioned 220. And you have to do 15 minutes of maths to work this out. Is this a valid first mention example, Brother Douglas?
Yes, I think it is.
But he doesn't mention it. And if Brother Jeffrey hadn't gone through all of this, we would never have worked it out. So how are you justifying that?
It's still, that time is still there. The point is restoration. So when we talk about restoration, then we have to take into account this time.
That's your answer you want to give?
Well,
Sister Effie, are you persuaded with that answer? You like that?
I'm listening.
That's English for no. So I think. Or Canadian for no, I don't know. In England, if they say, I'm thinking about it, normally that's a polite way of saying, what are you talking about?
Sorry, what's the question again?
The question is, Brother Douglas took us to the book of Genesis, because we're in the book of John, and we say 220, in fact not we, you said it's restoration. You saw it in the verse, and other people gave different examples, and Brother Douglas said the book of Genesis. I thought, well, the book of Genesis is the beginning of the Bible, so let's go to there. So he took us to the chapter and the verse 4, verse 14, went through all of this, and we say, yeah, he was correct, 220 is there. And it's the first time you're going to see a 220, pretty sure about that. So this is one of those rules of first mention. And the problem is he doesn't mention it at all. So I asked Brother Douglas to explain how he justifies this. Sister Effie said she didn't accept his answer. So that's where we've got to. Any comment? Or are you just listening?
Oh, sorry.
I don't mind, I'm talking to myself.
Yes, no, I agree. I'm listening.
You agree with whom? Who do you agree with?
But you haven't asked.
You agree with Sister Effie?
That she hasn't stated a position.
No, she says she doesn't know what he's talking about. Just making sure you agree with her or you agree with your brother.
No, I agree with him.
Ah! Okay.
No distraction. I agree with him.
Brother James, what do we do? Has something gone wrong?
I have a question.
Without getting too technical, everything seems to be correct.
Okay, so it's all correct. We've got 220, but it's not mentioned. Is this the valid first mention?
Yes. If it wasn't valid, why would we have all these dates for?
Okay, so if it's valid, at least give some level of justification of what we're doing.
Why would the Lord have placed all of these random dates in the Bible if they weren't for a purpose for us to use?
He gave us a math problem.
He did. I mean, otherwise it's just, I mean, we don't care how long the water was on the earth. It makes no sense to us. It doesn't matter. We're not sitting in the ark with Noah. And so it's extra information, and everything in the Bible is pertinent and for us here at the end of the world.
Any other comments?
No, I don't have a comment, but I have a question.
Oh, before your question, Sister Daniela.
I was just going to add to that based on what we've looked at so far, from Miller's rules, the first rule, they say the word is important. So when we come across this verse, then there has to be a reason why there's the second month or the seventh day or all that. So for us to do the math and come up with that number, then we realize it looks like the number 220 and John 220 with some kind of resemblance, and we can infer that it has to do with restoration.
Okay, so now we're going to infer things. Yeah?
Yes, and there's two witnesses for that number so far.
Where's the two witnesses?
The John 220 and this one, the calculation we just did.
No. Remember, John 2:20 is not a witness unless we get Genesis to be a witness, because John is going to confirm Genesis. Can't do it the other way around. If you want to be, if you want to do it properly. Okay, so that's why we want to be sure that this is the rule. Then John becomes a second witness, a very good second witness. Then we could do what Sister Ruth did, which would make some esoteric calculation that's connected to the King James Bible and go into Millerite history, because without these solid ones, you know, it's a bit risky doing random math calculation, 1611 to 1831, and say, oh look, 220.
So we would need like 3 things that show 220.
Minimum of 2. The first one is Genesis, but we need to be sure that this is solid. This is 220 is restoration. I'm agreeing with that. But what I wanted to point out is this is the first mention of 220, but it doesn't say 220. That's all I want us to pick up. Okay? Brother David, your question?
It was about verse 3.
Oh. Yeah.
When the waters return of the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. So the question is in order to calculate how long there was water on the earth, aka wet, this time frame that it's talking about, how do we not get it mixed up with the rest of what this condition is there? In light of the fact that we have the waters were abated.
Because verse 3 says the waters were abated, verse 1 says the waters were assuaged, and verse 4 says the ark rested. The ark could only have become to a place of rest, and then into verse 5 in verse 4 it tells you where it rests. It rests in this little clustering of the mountains of Ararat. The resting could not have happened until the assuaging and the abating occurs, and the abatement begins at the end of 150. So the two separate time periods, 150 to 20. If I use lots of complicated words, I can sort of hide behind them and not explain them. But now you say it again, clearly this time. 150 days it says?
Yes.
So you've got 150 days and you've got 220. And this is a bait. And we know when the waters abate is when the ark in verse 4 rests. So it says the ark rested 7th month, 17th day, which is this point here. So we're just calculating this from the abatement to dry.
Okay.
I ignored all of the 150.
Okay.
I don't know about the 150, I don't know what it means, what it symbolises or what it's referring to.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, since you had just had wet there, I was just thinking it was that whole period, and I was thinking, is that really how long there was water on the earth? But now it's just from the abate to dry, so okay, that's fine now.
So there's water on the earth for 150 plus 220, because I guess the waters go like this, and I don't know if they're fixed, but then they start going down, something like that. So if you added them up, it would be a lot more than the 220. But we're marking this from when it begins to go down to when it's fully gone down. Yeah? Brother James? Oh, you had your hand up, I thought. No? Okay, so I want to introduce just two thoughts. John 2:20. Where does it say restoration? We can sort of pick it up from the words, but there's no 220 anywhere, is there? Where did we get 220 from? Just from the numbers of the verse. So people would have a problem with that anyway. And I just want to reread to us the definition of juxtapositioning. It's two contrasting objects, images, or ideas. Now, this is not a hard definition, but I want to just take that concept that we can think of objects, which are physical things, images, which are pictures, whether they're word pictures or paintings, or even ideas, abstract thoughts. All of them can be juxtaposed. Now, when we start proof texting, often people use verse 5 as proof texting, which is valid. The way we've approached, did I say verse 5? I meant rule 5. Miller's rule number 5. The Bible is its own dictionary, its own expositor. The way I've shared rule number 5 with you is to say the Bible says one thing, and then the Bible says another thing, and you see it's repeated in large, and the enlargement becomes the definition of the word. Does that make sense? I can't remember the example we had when we did that, but you see repeating in large. The Bible might say, woe, hurt. So that would be repeating in large. Woe equals hurt. Yeah? So I've used rule number 5 in that way. Most people don't use rule number 5 that way. The way people use rule number 5 is what we would call proof texting. You get the word Sabbath and you see how it's used in different places across the Bible. So the Bible will define what the Sabbath is. Verse 1, the Sabbath is the 7th day. Verse 2, or the second reference, is that the Sabbath begins on sunset. The next one, the other passage, verse 3, the third verse, will tell you what you can do on the Sabbath. You're not, you need to rest. Verse 4 says you're not allowed to work. Verse 5 says how you're supposed to eat. So you can build up a picture of what the Sabbath is. And you're building that picture up from a biblical perspective. So the Bible is defining itself. Are we okay with that? That's how most people use rule number 5. It's correct. I'm not arguing that it's incorrect. We're not doing a study on William Miller's rules, so we're not looking at all the nuances and the differences. But that's what most people do when they approach rule number 5. They'll say, that's proof texting. I agree with that. But the way I've introduced rule number 5 to this class is to say it's repeat and enlarge. It's similar, but it still is different. It's not the same concept as proof texting. Can't remember why I even brought that up, unless it was someone's question. The point I want us to see is, yeah, I remember now. When we proof text something, what do we almost always do? If you're going to proof text something, discuss when you proof text. What would you do?
People do another verse.
Look at what?
A similar word or similar thought.
Okay, so you take the word and you run that word through the Bible. The first way of doing that is you take the exact word, which is where Cruden's Concordance is effective. You take the word and you see how it's used throughout the Bible, where it's used. That's proof texting. And Adventists are very familiar with that. What we're not so familiar with is that we can proof text not just words. What else can we proof text? Dates. I'll give you a clue. Juxtapose definition. If you juxtapose two contrasting objects, images, or ideas. So when we proof text, we're familiar with doing what? Proof texting? Words. We proof text words. And we think that's all we're allowed to do. But what else can we proof text? Someone said objects? Ideas, concepts, thoughts. And once you go into that realm, the Bible really opens up in a profound way. But people become uncomfortable with doing that because they're not used to doing that. You're not used to proof texting a concept or an idea. So if you're going to go to the stage where you can proof text a concept or an idea, I want to change a concept into another word, which is a symbol. So you can proof text a symbol, if we're okay with that. I think most of us would be comfortable with that, but only because we proof text in the word. So for instance, we could proof text lion. You run the line all the way through. You'd have to be careful which verses you pick, because the line can refer to different people. But if you make sure you do it properly, you could have 4 verses about Jesus. You don't have to mention Jesus, except maybe in one verse, but you proof text in lion, because you get characteristics of lions with respect to Jesus. We're okay with that, how we would do that? So let me ask you a question, a test question now. When you're going to make Jesus a lion, why are you doing that? What are you going to get out of that he's a lion? I'll give you another scenario. I'm going to make Satan a lion. And why do I want to make Satan a lion? Because a lion is a predatory animal, and when you're walking along minding your own business, if you're not paying attention, he will come and kill you. Yeah, he'll come and devour you. Satan is like a roaring lion devouring whom he may. So that's why he's a lion. Why is Christ a lion?
The king of the animal kingdom.
He's the king of the animal kingdom. And how does he exert his authority or make it known? How does the lion make known its authority?
It never lost.
By killing.
No. Sorry? It roars. That's how it exerts its authority, by roaring. So, I've given you all the clues you need. Why is Jesus a lion, Sister Daniela? Because he can what? He can roar. And when he roars, what does that tell you?
That he's the one in charge.
He's the king
Yes.
of
The
the jungle.
jungle, yeah.
Okay? He's showing his authority. That's why he roars. How do you know which God has authority in the Bible, in the world around us? How do you know which God? There's many gods, we agree, hopefully we agree with that, not just one God. How do you know which God has authority, Brother James?
Because he shows us the end from the beginning.
The God who can do accurate prophecies. The God who can do accurate prophecies is the God that's in charge, the one that has power. So when we want to start talking about prophecy or power, what would you expect to observe, Sister Daniela?
The things that have been prophesied to come into completion.
We're in lion territory.
Sorry?
We're in lion territory. What do you expect to see when you see prophesying and authority? What would you expect to see?
I don't know. Like,
Who prophesies?
lion,
Who's prophesying?
Jesus.
The lion.
God prophesies,
Yeah.
okay? And why does he prophesy? To show you,
The end from the beginning.
to show you,
His authority.
to show you his authority. So what would you expect to see? Now we're in the symbology.
Okay. So for the lion,
You expect to see a lion.
expressing his authority
How?
by roaring.
By roaring. So when you see a lion roaring, you know that he's expressing his authority. That's why we would make Jesus a lion. Are we okay with that? Make sense? 1 second. Let's go to Revelation chapter 10. So you read Revelation chapter 10 to yourself, begin at verse 1, and you tell me why we're in Revelation 10, Sister Daniela.
Why we're in Revelation 10?
Begin in verse, start reading from verse 1 silently to yourself, and then when you've finished reading as much as you need to read, you tell me why we went here. Revelation 10, we begin at verse 1. Okay, tell us why we're here now.
Because you get to see a lion roaring.
Okay,
In verse
explain that.
That means there's some kind of prophecy that is being given because
In whose name? In whose authority?
in the authority of God.
Okay,
Because
so
he's the one who's the lion. Like the lion is the symbol of Jesus. Yes.
good. It doesn't mean the angel is Jesus.
No. Yeah, it doesn't mean that.
It doesn't mean that. But this angel, whoever and whatever he is, speaks in whose name?
In the name of God.
In the name of God, and he's roaring. And when he roars, what's he doing?
He's prophesying.
He's prophesying. We could go to other Bible passages. Brother Douglas.
Sorry, I'm going to take you back a little bit. I was just trying to understand roaring in the sense of the lion roaring. I've had an elephant roaring. Other animals try to do it. What's so unique about the lion roaring that's different? Because you'd think that the lion is not scared, right? So it's roaring telling everybody 10 kilometers or however far that I'm here, you know. And the elephants, you think that they'll be scared, so they don't want anybody to know their whereabouts. So they roar as well. That's what I would think.
I understand your question. I guess my response to that would be, God picks and chooses what He wants, and He doesn't talk about elephants anywhere. He talks about lions. I don't know why human beings have said the lion is the king of the jungle and all of that, but the Bible certainly attributes characteristics of leaders, good or bad, to lions. So I'm just using that analogy. I didn't invent, I might have used a snake or a hippopotamus. We could have used any powerful animal, but the one that God chose was lion. So I'm only going just with that.
Yeah, so just to make my point is, when I was thinking about lions and roaring, I have an uncle who was in the military. They said that they had to go kill a lion one day, and they shot it, and it got injured, and it put its mouth to the ground, and the whole ground like an earthquake. So it's an elephant can roar a lion, but when a lion roars, it's nothing that you ever.
Okay, so you're confirming this. Amen. Good. So what I want us to see is that when you proof text or when you do any kind of study, it's not just the words that we can proof text or go with. So when we take that and we start looking at other rules, it's legitimate to say we can't find the 220 in this passage. We can construct a 220, and if we can construct it, it's as good as if it was written that way. When you go outside of this room, people will not accept that kind of thinking. We're very hedged in by our own preconceived ideas, our own prejudices, our own upbringing, and it takes some growth to step out of the box, if you like. As we were just told a minute ago, why would God give us all of this information if it wasn't for a reason? It must be for a reason. We've got at least one reason. I'm sure there are others. We've got the 220. First time, as far as I know, you can do this calculation. I'm not saying you couldn't go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 20. I'm sure you could.
Genesis 32:14.
32.
That's Jacob gave 220 sheep and goats.
Yes, that would be afterwards though, because it's Genesis 32. It wouldn't be the first mention. So we might have to go back to Genesis 2:20, but it's in the verses. The numbers work. So all I want us to point out that even though the number isn't there, I think it's still a valid way of approaching it. You've read 2:20?
Well, I did read 2:20, and I'm thinking about what happens because of 2:20, and it seems, it's up for debate, but. And Adam gave names to all the cattle and to the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was love and help need for him. So I'm thinking, all of that we know the story at the end of the day, God creates Eve and brings Eve to him. Is that a form of completion, restoration? I don't know, but.
Sounds like it to me. Okay, so that was just a short study on John 2:20, the restoration, from the number 46. So let's just come back to our study.
Sorry, was this just to prove that you can prove text and concept, or was there something else?
Looking at John 2:20.
Restoration as well.
Why did we go to John 2:20? Because it takes 46 years to build a temple.
Right.
We took that from Ezekiel 4:6, and we mentioned John 2:20. But when we mentioned it the last two times, we didn't go into a further development of that connection. All we looked at was 46 years to restore or rebuild a temple, and we looked at 46. We did talk about the restoration of the temple, associated with 46.
Yeah.
October 22nd, 1844, we call it the Day of Atonement, the cleansing of the sanctuary, but there is also a restoration of the temple. It's been restored now. But I wanted us to see also that it's not only 46 years, but you can also get it from the number in the verse. 220 is a symbol of restoration, and we can get that from Genesis. I can't remember how many other examples someone gave us, but Sister Daniela took us to 1831. 1831 is what? Is what event, Sister Rachel?
1931 is when Miller preached his first sermon.
Okay, so that's the historical perspective. We want to just change the narrative and give a nuanced answer about what happened in 1831. Easy, because we don't know the direction we're going in. Anybody else? What happens in? I'm not looking for another event. It's the same event. He begins to preach his message, but I want us to explain it in a different way. Not the technical. He went through 22, 31. He said, I did a deal with God. Now we're going to start preaching. Just a different perspective of 31. Sister Ruth.
The restoration of the King James Bible.
Okay, so I wanted to ask someone else because I didn't want that answer. I'm going to say that's not a good answer. I'm going to be mean to you. Brother Douglas.
Did you say formalization of the message?
Yeah, I don't want to call it it is a formalization of the message. I'll put formalization, but I wanted a different answer than that.
I was going to say, I mean, it's a public unsealing of Daniel.
Okay, so we'll go with the words public and unsealing. So we'll go with that, public and unsealing. Yeah? So Sister Ruth wants us to go back 220 years, takes us to 1611. And for those who don't know, 1611 is the premier date that is connected with the King James Bible. The King James Bible, there's different versions. I don't know if we all read the King James, but the King James that we read is not the 1611 version. Just so that you know, it's not the 1611 version. 1611 version is not even English as we know it. It's another form of English. It's a much more archaic form of English. But nevertheless, we're going to put 1611 as the King James Bible.
It's just an off question. I have a 1611 Bible. Is the only thing that's off is the spelling? You're not saying that
No, it's the spelling. The language is difficult to read. This is probably wrong. It's like you don't have W's or something like that. They're all V's, and you look at it, you think, yeah, this doesn't look like English. That's all. I'm not saying anything more. So 1611. So what is 1611, Brother James?
Other than the release of the King James Version?
It's the release of the King James Version, but I don't want to use that narrative. I want a different perspective of that event.
Beginning? Release?
Okay.
Something about an unsealing of information.
Okay.
Release of information.
So,
Increase.
what did you say? Release. To whom?
To people. Public, yeah.
So it's the public.
Unsealing or release.
So it's the public unsealing, and it's a formal release of these. It wasn't sort of done in some dark corner somewhere. It's the formal public unsealing of what? Of God's Word. And 1831 was the formalization of the message, so it's a formal public unsealing of God's Word. Or as Sister Ruth said to us, restoration of Bible. But it's true, that's what we normally say, the restoration of the King James Bible. But to me, that doesn't quite give the nuance of what is actually happening in 31. I like this. The formalization, so we've got, it's a formal statement, it's gone public, and it's an unsealing. We know the unsealing is an increase of knowledge. So we've got this increase of knowledge, and it's being unsealed not to the speaker, but to the public. The King James Bible, I can't remember, say if it took 7 years for them to do it, it wasn't suddenly unsealed for those translators in 1611. They'd been working on it for a long, long time. In fact, the King James Bible is not even an original Bible. I don't know if we know that. It's not an original Bible.
The one we have now?
Yeah, the 1611, I don't mean... It's a copy of whose Bible? No, this is the King James. KJV is King James. It's a copy of whose Bible? It's a copy of Tyndale's Bible. Tyndale is a sole individual, a scholar, and he writes a Bible called the Tyndale Bible. A few years before, maybe 50 years, I don't know how many years, less. They come to 1611. England and Europe are having a conflict, so King James decides to poke the Pope in the eye and say, we're going to make our own Bible. And he gets all these scholars together, and they have this great fanfare introduction saying, we studied all the manuscripts in the Greek and the Hebrew, and we were diligent. And what they end up doing is getting Tyndale's Bible and copying it. So at least 80% of this Bible is just they got straight from Tyndale, just like word for word plagiarism. I'm not saying they didn't cross-reference and check. It just shows you that Tyndale was such a great scholar, and people don't know about this man enough, and we should know about him if you're going to go into the history of this sort of study. But I just want to make King James is not original as you might think, that they got hundreds of manuscripts and they poured over them and whatever. They just basically copied Tyndale. And if you want to sort of go with it, Tyndale copied... Sorry? If you want to be flippant about it, you could say he copied Luther. But Luther got all of his work from Erasmus. I think he was a Dutch scholar. I think he was Dutch. So Tyndale gets it from Erasmus, which is the Greek manuscript. Luther does the same. They do such a good job. When the King James translators come to do it, it's basically just a tick box ticking exercise because he's done such a good job. So I'm saying that all in a positive way. 1611, it's the formal public unsealing of the Word of God. And in fact, if you ever get time, and this goes back to, we've only got a short amount of time and what do we study? So I don't know if you may not be interested in it, but if you took the time, you'd have to go online to do it. If you go online and type in something like the preface or the introduction of the King James Bible, the original one, it's like a little booklet. It's not like the half page that you get in the King James Bible now. And you're lucky if you get that. It's a lengthy document, and it's a statement of why the King James Bible was made. I said that King James poked the Pope in the eye, and they really do say something like that. They say this book will give something like a deadly wound or a deadly blow to the papacy. So they saw the release of the King James Bible as the unsealing of God's word to the public on two counts. First of all, it was made public in their own language, and the second one was they used, I'd say, the Bible, what they copied it from, which was the correct versions, if you like, the correct manuscripts, inerrant, because there were many false, if I can say, many false Bibles around. Maybe we could just say there was a false Catholic Bible, and then they want a pure Protestant Bible, and that's its purpose. It's to put it in the language of the people, and it's pure, unsealed, because the Word of God had been sealed up. So that's why I like this public unsealing, because it's an Alpha and Omega. And we could say the restoration of the King James I'm not sure if it's a good way of saying it. I know people have used that. But again, conceptualize it how you will. It is a 220, it's connected to King James, but for me, it's, if you're going to use Alpha and Omega, which I think would be a good way to approach this, they have to be the same. And this could not be the restoration of the King James Bible, because it's the beginning of the King James Bible. It's the restoration of something. It's a formal declaration that goes public, and now the Word of God is unsealed to everyone. Same thing that goes on here. So we're given 3. Litch is going to use Revelation 9, Numbers 14:34, Ezekiel 4:6. These are 1 day equals 1 year. It's exactly the same verses that Miller's going to use. But when Miller uses 1 day equals 1 year, the way we've expressed it, what do people say? Sorry? Yeah, year-day principle, what do people say?
A day for a year, is what I always hear.
Yeah, no, I mean, day for a year, what's people's response? That's what I'm asking. What do they say?
When you use that?
Yeah, it says day for a year, and they say?
Say okay.
No, they don't say that. I don't have it here. Because what did they say?
So what?
Not so what? They say, how do you know? Maybe you're right, maybe you're not. Who can tell? Litch is going to do the same, day for a year. And what do people say? Sorry? No, not when Litch says it. They do, here in August the 11th, 1840. So what did they say? Yes. So they're happy now. Day for a year has been proven to be Baint off of Litch's work, and which is got nothing to do with Miller's work, totally different subject, but they're using the same methodology. And they say, yep, this is all good, 100% correct, because it's been proven. As soon as you make a prophecy and you go to the other side of its fulfillment, then everything's finished. It's been fulfilled. Tautology. Repeat and enlarge. So now they say, yep, it's all been proven. What can you now do? You can now go back to Miller's message and say what? It's right. And you can say it's right before its fulfillment. That's why this connection, this piece of history is important to understand. You know Miller's right, it can be because it's been proven to be correct. Are we okay with that? So do we have a similar scenario in our history? What? Explain.
We're saying that
We're predicting Raphia. How do you know it's true?
for us, or for
I don't know, whoever's it's true for. Don't answer my question, because I don't think you were headed in that way. You explain what you meant when you said Raphia, because I'm going to guide you down what I think it would have been. You tell me what you think. You just said.
I was looking at that and thinking that right now, having this close observation, but until afterwards, when you see it, it doesn't have as much, it's not like glitch there when people say, wow.
We've got Miller's message, which goes to where? Okay, so we'll go to here. We can go to October, either one. Where's Raphia in your scenario? Tell me which man, Miller or Litch? When you said Raphia. You say that like you're asking me. It was your idea.
I'm wondering now, I know 9/11 confirmed our methodology. So I don't know if I'm backpedaling.
You're in backpedal. Oh, I liked your idea. I'm going to put Raphia here. So he's predicting Raphia. Are we certain Raphia is going to happen?
Yes.
Based upon what? Based upon what are you certain? Who said yes? No, I heard Brother Douglas. Who said yes? I heard him. I thought I heard a yes here as well. Okay, you tell me what the proof is.
I think we also have to have an element of faith too.
No. There's no faith here. It's proof. The faith comes in if this is proven to be true, then I have faith that this will be proven to be true. I'm okay with that, but I'm asking what's the proof if we're setting this scenario up?
The methodology.
Can't be the methodology, because the methodology is going to prove. It's not the methodology itself that's the proof. The methodology is going to be used to prove something. The methodology here is going to be used to prove this, which is correct. Then therefore you say this methodology is the same as this methodology. Therefore this methodology that predicts this is correct. That's the faith bit, but it's no longer faith now because it's been proven. So how have we proven it today? What proof do we have that Raphia is correct?
History.
No, you've got to be a lot more specific than that. Brother Douglas.
I would piggyback on what my sister was saying. Sister Ruth.
I didn't agree with anything she said, so you want to piggy bank. I don't mind. I just said that, just so you know, I didn't agree with what she said.
Oh, okay. I think we're basing Raphia based on the line of the Millerites.
No. The Millerites is a line of failure.
Oh yes.
Ours is a line of success. If you use their line, you're going to get into deep water.
Okay, so we have studied history with notice pattern.
She said the same.
That's why I was going.
I know, and I said that no, specific. Okay, in our next class. Brother James is going to give us the answer in the next class. Lord willing. If not, we'll work it out together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness. We want to ask and pray that you continue to bless and guide us. We ask for wisdom and understanding in the study and meditation of your word. These things we pray for in Jesus' name. Amen.